Welcome students of Form 3, but also of Form 4, or definitely Form 5. This could be helpful for you if you're in your exam year. If you hear some sounds, those are the dogs around me, because I'm recording this in my backyard. And we're going to talk in this video, with or without the dogs, what influenced the outcomes of elections. So we just had, speaking 2025, April. In March 2025, we have elections, and we're talking now about what influences the outcome of elections. Yeah, we're talking about that. So, what influences the outcomes of elections? That's the question. And if you're watching this from abroad, it could also be helpful for you because I use the CXC program, and you might have seen also that I work at the Sky. This is enough information for the sidelines. And we're talking about the learning outcomes outline, so not so much as describing, but more than just stating or giving, outline the factors that influence the outcomes of elections. So outline the factors that influence the outcomes of elections. Elections go as they go for certain reasons, for certain factors that influence the choices of people when they're in the voting booth and when they have to put their vote into, like a casket or a bucket or a vase or whatever. And we're going to talk about those. One of the things that is important is the principle of a floating voter. That's not a voter that's floating in the sea, but is a voter that hasn't made up his or her mind for what party he or she is going to vote. So, reading literally, political parties do all they can to influence voters and to run up to an election, to try to influence the voter that will vote for their party, their political party, especially floating voters, those who are not aligned yet with a particular party. Aligned would roughly mean like have chosen or have like connected themselves with a political party. The word here is align. So when you've aligned yourself with a political party, you know you're going to vote for this party and you've like made up your mind, you have the same ideals, or like in Curacao, you're connected with certain candidate members. You have certain candidates of the candidate list of that party. But those who are floating voters are not aligned yet with a certain political party, and they can still be convinced. Yeah. So those definitely the floating voters, those who have not made up their minds, are those that political parties in the last few weeks before the election they want to convince those. Yeah. So those aligned voters have not made up their mind yet. They're still thinking about it, still weighing, like for who am I gonna vote for? They've not made up their mind yet. And these floating voters during the last weeks before the election day, a political party wants to convince those floating voters during those last few weeks because they can make the difference in the results of the elections. This group of floating voters can definitely, surely be influenced, like you can see here. This group of floating voters can surely be influenced. Yeah, so this is one of the more important things that influences the outcome of elections. One thing that is important and has a force on its own also is opinion polls. I'm saying this because in the month before the elections, election day, so there was the 15th of March was election day, but in the weeks before, all the Curaçao newspapers were speaking of a monster victory, in Dutch monsterzege, monster victory coming up for MFK. And we call this like the winners high. Everybody wanted to be part of the winner. So probably this meant that more people were going to vote for them. So this opinion poll had like you could also call it like a snowball effect. So an opinion poll, see that here, an opinion poll. An opinion poll is a survey. So they ask people who you're going to vote for of certain questions given by a sample of the electorate. So a sample, not the whole electorate, but like a sample that is like represents the whole electorate. So by a sample of the electorate, and the electorate is like those are eligible voters, electorate. So electors are those voters who are eligible to vote in a certain country. Yeah, electorate. You see it here. The samples group's opinions are then used as an indication of the opinions of the electorate. That word again. Of the electorate as a whole. That will be used as, okay, this sample has this opinion. We've had young people, old people, men, women. So it is like a representation of what the electorate as a whole actually thinks. And it will inform the parties' messages political parties then give out to the public or the electorate again. So political parties then give out to the electorate. Because the political parties, in the end, you have to say things that people actually also want to hear. And if the electorate has certain opinions or certain worries, things that they're worried about, the political parties will adapt their message towards what people want to hear from the leaders of the political parties, or the issues, the social issues that they want the political leaders and the candidate members to talk about. So to inform the messages, this will inform the messages that political parties give out to the electorate again. Yeah. So an opinion poll is a survey of responses to certain questions given by a sample of the electorate. The sample group's opinions are then used as an indication of the opinions of, again, the electorate as a whole. This will inform the messages political parties then give out to the electorate again. So I hope that's clear. And also, opinion polls by their own can have like a huge influence on how people will vote, because it's like a snowball effect, or you also call it like the winner's effect. If a party seems to be winning, everybody, often, not always, but everybody wants to be part of that moment. Then the voter turnout. In Curacao, in some countries they are obligated to vote, but in Curacao people are not obligated to vote. So you're 18 older until you're like very old, and you're not obligated to vote. So voter turnout is a big issue. So voter turnout is the percentage of the electorate who actually cast a vote. So voter turnout is the percentage of the electorate who actually casts a vote, like you can see in this picture. So voter turnout is that part of the electorate that actually cast a vote. An election based on a high turnout is generally accepted to be a better expression or representation of the will of the people, because the people are like the population as a whole, and if a lot of people vote, that's a better expression or representation. It could be one of these two, a better expression of the will of the people. So voter turnout is a percentage of the electorate who actually casts a vote. An election result based on a high turnout is generally accepted to be a better representation or an expression of the will of the people. So let's continue. A low voter turnout, we continue here, causes concern of the fear. So people become afraid that this means that a particular section of society of the population is underrepresented. So if young people didn't vote or old people didn't vote, then the fear exists that a part of the population is underrepresented. Their opinion is not heard, and the political party that has gained power does not represent this section of the population. And the idea about democracy is that in parliament, all of the population is represented and not those that voted. So how bigger the voter turnout, how more people have voted, the better the will of the people is expressed, is represented. And a low voter turnout causes concern. People worry about it because of the fear that this means that a particular section of the population may be underrepresented. There is then an underrepresentation of this part of the population. Yeah, so after the election moments, people will look at, okay, how many people did vote? What was the voter turnout? And they will look at it. And if the voter turnout is low, this can worry people because a part can be underrepresented. If there was a high voter turnout, this is a better expression, actually, of the will of the people in this case, because a lot of people turned out to vote. There was a high voter turnout here. But if there's a low voter turnout, like you can see here, then people will fear that there is a kind of underrepresentation. Yeah, I hope this video is helpful, and I hope the iconography and the icons actually help to express something in images. If you want to subscribe, I believe you can do that in the corner over there. If you're going to go to the next video, you can do that over there to the next video. If you want to ask a question, you can do that below my little circle here. Yeah? Enjoy your morning, midday, or evening, and I hope to see you very soon during class. Goodbye.